Hey, Lisa,
Yes,
it seems like only a couple of hours since we talked.
that's because it has been a couple of hours. Like,
You on your way home, Chris?
Actually, I'm on my way to class. That's why I'm never at a hangout, is because I have class on Wednesdays from 6 until 8:45. But you scheduled this one at 5, and so I'm on my way to class.
Well, drive carefully.
Oh, I am.
Hi, Aaron.
Hi.
I like that color of your walls.
Thank you.
Pretty. See if anybody else will show up here. Oh my gosh, it's the sailor. Henry, you there?
Yep.
Wave or
I'm
something.
here.
Good.
Finally got Wi-Fi hooked up on the boat, so
I see that.
now I
Yeah.
can get good internet connections.
Awesome. How's the weather out there?
It's been raining for like 14 days or 15 days.
Sounds kind of like the Northwest.
Yeah, it was sunny for like 20 minutes, but other than that, it's just been cloudy.
Maybe you should have looked for a boat in the Caribbean.
Probably would have been a better idea.
Yeah. All right. Well, we may as well get started. We are in, oh, there, hey, Michael. Michael has shown up. At least he's coming. All right, we are in, Michael, yeah, you're there, I see you. We are in week 10. We're just cranking along here. And that's good news and bad news. The good news is we're making progress and we're almost done with the really tough stuff. The bad news is we have an exam coming up a week from Friday. So you should probably start thinking about that. Just to give you a little bit of a heads up, the exam will be the same format as the last one. It'll be 30 multiple choice questions. And it'll cover the material since the last exam. Hi, Haley.
Hey there.
That's nice. We have a good crowd tonight. I was afraid that because I changed the time, no one would be showing up. Okay, we are doing producer behavior in the real world, which is to say this week it's oligopoly and monopolistic competition. Does anybody have any questions about that? Think about it while I say a few things. Okay. monopolistic competition looks a lot like monopoly. There is a well-defined theory of monopolistic competition, and monopolistically competitive firms face downward sloping demand curves, just like most other firms, just like monopolies. And the graphic analysis is very similar to monopoly, except for one big important thing. And that is monopolies don't have any direct competition because they are the only firm in the industry. Whereas monopolistically competitive firms have lots of competition. A bunch of firms, but they are all a little bit differently. Think fast food restaurants. Even two McDonald's restaurants aren't identical because they are at different locations. And so that may give one firm an advantage over the other. Anyway, if you can do monopoly, you can do monopolistic competition. Oligopoly is the difficult one. Even though oligopolies are very close to monopolies in a lot of the features, there is no single well-accepted theory of oligopoly. There are different
on my end.
Well, after talking for about 5 minutes, I realized that no one was there, and the problem was me, not you. My internet just totally cut out on me there. So let me try again. What was the last thing that you heard me say?
You said there's no
The oli-
single.
You started talking about oligopolies.
Right. Okay. So the problem with oligopoly is that firms are really interdependent. Think about Coke and Pepsi. Coke never does anything that Pepsi doesn't respond to. And so Coke may have a downward sloping demand curve. We know they do in theory, but anytime Pepsi goes on sale, the Coke demand curve shifts automatically. Okay, so what that means in practice is it's really hard to figure out exactly where the Coke demand curve is, and therefore it's difficult, if not impossible, to identify an actual equilibrium price and quantity. There are specific theories that we can apply to specific oligopoly situations, but there's no one generally accepted theory that everybody agrees to. If you ask me, I think the best analyses of oligopoly come out of game theory. Be quiet, phone. Come out of game theory, but game theory is very complex, and we don't usually teach that in any detail until our intermediate micro course. In fact, we have a whole another upper level course called game theory, and then we have another 300 level course called industrial economics that spends a lot of time looking at how oligopolies operate in the real world. So most of what we have to say is drawing inferences. We can say that oligopolies are likely to earn profits higher than normal profits in the long run because they have high barriers to entry, and so in that respect, they're a lot like monopolies. We can talk about the institutional features of a given oligopolistic industry, like how many firms there are, what the concentration ratio is, which is a measure of oligopoly power. But it's hard to do the kind of analysis we do with all the other market structures, just because we can't lock down their demand curves, basically. Okay, so that's kind of my overview of monopolistic competition and oligopoly. Do you guys have any questions about that or about any of the other stuff that you've been working on?
Yeah, I had a question.
Sure.
It was on the Monopoly module, and it was one
Yes.
of the kind of checks as you were going through.
Mhm.
And the question was, it had all of the graphs and everything below, and it said the profit maximizing quantity is, and I'd been thinking in terms of like total cost and total revenue, and so there's a point where the demand curve and like the average cost curves and the average total costs and the marginal costs, like all of those cross at some point.
Mhm.
So I was thinking it would be at one of those points, but the correct answer was 0. And so I was wondering why that would be the profit maximizing quantity.
It could be, and I'd have to look at the question. It could be that the quantity where MR equals MC, which is ordinarily the right answer, was below the shutdown point. Okay, so if demand was really low, they would lose more money by staying in operation than they would if they just shut down. So my guess is that's what the answer was.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense.
Good.
Thank you.
Sure. Other questions? Keep your eyes on the road, Chris.
My eyes are definitely on the road. I'm actually pulling into the university now.
Excellent. Well, if you have no questions, that must mean that it makes sense to you, which would be a good thing.
Can I ask some questions about the assignment that's due?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I just wanted to clarify the equilibrium point, because was it in the perfect economy where it was the marginal cost and the marginal revenue? That was where the
It's always the case that firms will maximize profits by choosing the level of output where MR equals MC.
Okay. Awesome.
In the case of perfect competition, price and marginal revenue are the same. So the rule we use there is price equals marginal cost, but it's also correct to say marginal revenue equals marginal cost.
Okay, awesome. Because it had said that, I think it had like clarified that in the monopoly module, but I don't know if it had straight up said like the equilibrium point is here. So I just wanted to confirm that. Okay, thank you.
I have a question for you, sir.
Yep.
And back to what Haley was talking about, I went and I looked up that particular question, and yes, where marginal cost and marginal revenue, where they intersect, it's right at 30. Is that what you saw, Haley?
Yeah, and that was the answer that I originally put.
Right.
And then
I think it's just a misprint on the test, sir.
Okay,
So.
That was in the monopoly chapter?
Sir.
Okay, I'll go in and check that since I now
one of the three graphs there.
Let me
And then
write
the
myself.
question that I had.
Go ahead.
That I had was, it took me a while to catch on that we were talking producer equilibrium. I was always looking for the equilibrium point where the marginal cost was intersecting with the demand curve. On the exams, always differentiate between two equilibriums, correct? You'll specify producer equilibrium.
Say that again.
Producer equilibrium. I just welcome to our world, sir.
Yes, I know.
Okay, but yes, producer equilibrium. It took me a while to just catch on that there was a different equilibrium point than where the supply and demand curves.
Correct. It's producer equilibrium is the quantity where MR equals MC.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. But when you're asking for the equilibrium point, I just want to make sure you'll specify.
No, I'll be more specific than that. I will tell you it's the producer equilibrium I'm looking for.
Okay. All right. And then did some additional reading, and outside of our text, I came across something that I found to be helpful. But the marginal revenue, the marginal cost, yes, the marginal cost curve, that is supply curve.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Basically, yeah. That's,
all right. I just wanted to make sure that.
Yeah, it plays that role. It is absolutely correct under perfect competition. With the other market structures, it plays that role. What we often say is there is no supply curve per se under monopoly, but that's a more advanced interpretation of things. So don't worry about that. Yeah, you're right on.
Okay, it seemed to make a lot more sense to me in understanding the models.
Is that it, Michael? Good. Anybody else have questions? Heather, you having trouble holding your head up tonight?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm a little tired, so it's nap time.
Yep. Anybody else have questions?
I might have to hit you with some questions offline.
Sure, that's fine.
I was working on some other class stuff earlier, and I wasn't able to get everything written down, and plus I had to drive here, so I'm probably gonna have to hit you up offline.
That's fine.
I think I do have a couple, but I'll have to look at them again.
The other thing we can do, Chris, is we can always talk by phone.
Okay.
So, all right. Anybody else?
For the assignment, we were having trouble identifying where the total costs are on the final graph.
Total cost on the marginal and average graphs,
Yeah.
the way to find total cost is always you pick the equilibrium quantity, you go up to the average cost curve,
Okay.
and then that dot defines total cost. It's the area, which is the height of average cost times the quantity at that point. So it's usually a rectangle.
Okay.
But the key is you read it off the average cost curve.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Other questions? All right, well, I will let you go then. If questions come up, you can always shoot me an email. We can make appointments various ways. We can even talk by phone if that's easiest for you. But until next week, have a good evening. Enjoy the rest of the day.